In January 2021, a presentation to Nanaimo City Council was made seeking approval to erect a plaque commemorating Rheal Finnigan's contribution to the Salmon Enhancement Program. We were successful getting approval and hope to have a celebration for Rheal at Bowen Park later this year. This slideshow tells a little bit of a story of the role Dave Marshall and Rheal Finnigan had in the Salmon Enhancement Program in BC. Dave and Rheal began working together when the Salmon Enhancement Program started in 1978. They became known as the bioengineering team for the Special Projects Division. Both Rheal and Dave were well known for their creativity, biological and engineering skills, and soon became known as pioneers in the development of salmon side channels, and in particular groundwater channel construction, which proved to be one of the most productive techniques for producing wild salmon. Within a few years, they had put together teams of young biologists, engineers, and technicians who set out to design restoration techniques for increasing productivity for all salmon species. These teams also provided support to the Community Economic Development Program and volunteer organizations, teaching them about new habitat restoration and hatchery enhancement techniques that they could use on their projects. Rheal created a work atmosphere that encouraged brainstorming sessions, free thought, testing of new ideas, and development of experiments that could potentially improve habitat restoration productivity and hatchery operations. This led to refinements in many kinds of salmon enhancement design elements, including groundwater channel construction, optimization of gravel composition mixes, upwelling incubators, moist and in-stream cassette incubators, construction of rearing habitat, riparian planting techniques, bank stabilization techniques, natural and man-made fishways, river intakes, siphon pipelines for hatcheries, a variety of adult counting fences, and beaver control techniques that discourage the building of beaver dams. When you think about it, it's incredible how motivated and busy we were working on these types of projects. Many of the staff, and especially Rheal, often had several experiments going on year to year. Dave and Rheal always believed in letting staff try new things and treated failures as a way of learning and moving forward. The division became focused on off-channel habitat restoration, and for a couple of decades were building dozens of groundwater channels or side channels a year, some measuring 1 to 3 kilometers long. It was clear to the group that this restoration approach was the biggest bang for the buck, producing far more fish annually with little maintenance compared to all other in-river restoration techniques. The new channels proved to be highly productive. We were able to demonstrate that incubation and marine survival was very high. The small channels produce thousands of yearling smolts, while the larger channels could produce tens of thousands. It became common to see adult coho returns 10 times higher after the first 3 years of operation. Eventually, we were able to demonstrate that a single large side channel in a medium-sized river could double coho production and show similar results for chum salmon. Nothing could beat the production you could get out of the groundwater channels, and they became one of our key restoration techniques in BC. They also became well known and copied in Washington State and Alaska. This team was known for thinking outside the box. In a groundwater channel at Manquam River in the Squamish watershed, we devised an incubation setup where the upwelling groundwater was highest at the top of the channel. Eyed eggs were placed on the surface of the channel bed, and a dark plastic tarp was laid over to protect the eggs from sunlight and predators. Incubation survival was approximately 70%, which led to the successful return of pink salmon to Manquam River. Rheal spent years testing river intakes and experimenting with dozens of prototypes. He finally came up with a pipe wing intake, which has become a standard for supplying water to medium-sized side channels. This design has proven to be very reliable in eliminating gravel and in minimizing the amount of coarse sands entering side channels. The reliability of this style of pipe intake has proven itself at the Clay Young side channel, which is completely dependent on flow through two Finnigan wing intakes that feed water from the Englishman River into a saline basin, which then flows down through a 4.3 kilometer long channel. In more than 15 years of operation, it has run flawlessly without the need to clean out the saline basin, demonstrating how well Rheal's design works. The team's interest in boosting production and habitat restoration channels and ways to support volunteer hatchery programs led to the development of a variety of incubators, focusing on systems that required little or no power, no pipeline, and were simple and reliable. A couple of great examples are the cassette in-stream incubator and the moist incubator. The cassette incubator can be anchored to the bottom of a stable flowing side channel and could hold approximately 250,000 chum or chinook eggs and more for both coho and pink salmon, with incubation survivals of over 90%. These units were also bear and vandal proof. Moist incubators were based on the principle of incubating salmon eggs in air at 100% humidity from the time they were fertilized to just before hatch. The eggs would sit in moist air for 6 hours and then would be flushed with water, and the cycle would repeat itself 4 times a day. With this type of system, only a small power source like a car battery and a DC pump are required to operate the system. What I recall in terms of how this idea came about was when Rheal had gone river fishing, probably after a flood, and found a bunch of eyed salmon eggs on a gravel bar and noticed that they were still alive. He could see the eyes in the eggs moving around. He suspected that they had been on the gravel bar for at least several hours, if not several days. Given his curiosity, he took these eggs home, put them in a bowl on top of a paper towel, and put them in the fridge and watched them for several days. I think maybe even for a couple of weeks, and the eggs survived. I believe this is how the idea of moist incubation started within our group. It was these types of inventions that allowed us to successfully operate community and volunteer hatchery programs. Dave and Rheal, and for that matter our staff, realizes over time that our projects were only truly successful when stewardship groups took ownership of these channels where they maintained and operated them. This partnership grew when we were able to incorporate a hatchery-style program within the channel, which included incubation and rearing. A great example is the Oyster River Enhancement Society, who have been in operation for decades. They operated and maintained a series of channels that the Resource Restoration Division constructed in the watershed and ran a hatchery program. Other good examples are Coal Creek and the Englishman River Enhancement Societies. Working with these groups was incredibly rewarding. We developed great relationships, and we loved it when these volunteers were able to come up with their own modifications to improve the hatchery and channel operation. It was always so impressive how creative Rheal was and the number of inventions he developed. But equally impressive was his energy and his ability to get things done. Rheal worked all over Vancouver Island, the Lower Mainland, Lower Fraser, Upper Fraser, Northern BC, and Queen Charlotte's. It was incredible how much work he was able to accomplish in his career. The Millstone River was one of the last projects that Rheal worked on. It's a great example of the creativity that was used to get fish past 2 large waterfalls into the upper watershed. Nanaimo fishing game solved migration issues on the lower river by blasting pools and building concrete weirs. The salmon were able to swim 2 kilometers upstream into Bowen Park. They built a concrete fishway in the park at the first high waterfall, but the salmon could not navigate beyond a much larger natural rock formation immediately upstream. The cost to construct another fishway above the falls was estimated to cost about $2 million. Instead, we came up with the idea of building a 600-meter side channel that climbed 90 feet up to Bowen Park, bypassing the 2 waterfalls and allowing fish to migrate and colonize the upper watershed. The total project cost $375,000 and was supported by numerous agencies, businesses, in the city of Nanaimo. The main purpose of the bypass channel was to allow coho to migrate into the upper watershed of the Millstone River. However, we also complexed the bypass channel so that it had spawning and rearing habitat. The side channel has become a popular local city attraction. People walk the pathways along the bypass channel, watching coho spawning and juveniles rearing in the channel. The channel has produced upwards of 5,000 juveniles a year and has operated with little maintenance since 2007. Vancouver Island University Fisheries Program uses the channel as an outdoor classroom for teaching students about fish counting, side channel design, and water quality. Further enhancements were made to the side channel by tapping into water storage in Westwood Lake to improve water flow through the summer in the Millstone River and bypass channel. A water intake was installed in Westwood Lake and a pipeline was constructed over the Westwood Lake Saddle Dam, which drained into Darrell Creek, which had not flown for 100 years because of the original Saddle Dam, and then flowed into Millstone River, feeding both the river and the bypass channel. The creek flows into Millstone River and down through Bowen Park, providing a low summer flow throughout the summer for both the river and side channel. This is another example of a pipeline diversion technique that Rheal and staff developed. Rheal was the heart and soul of the Resource Restoration Division. We will never forget his tenacity and creativity developing new techniques for the habitat restoration and hatchery program. He encouraged all of us to do the same, and he was always there to help and provide guidance. We all feel so fortunate that we were able to work with Ray, who provided us with this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Slide 22. I believe that what is a testament to Rheal in the program is that all of us who were hired at the very start of this program remained in this group until our retirement. Rheal was well-liked, well-known for his guidance and expertise for salmon restoration and enhancement throughout BC, and we are grateful to have been part of his team. I believe that what is a testament to Rheal in the program is that all of us who were hired at the very start of the Salmon Enhancement Program remained with this group until our retirement. Rheal was well-liked and well-known for his guidance and expertise for salmon restoration and enhancement throughout BC, and we are grateful to have been part of this team.